Hi, I'm Christopher Stewart. I want to take a moment and talk about puppetry. Now, puppetry is one of the most enjoyable and one of the oldest forms of theater that was ever made. Now, a lot of people don't really think about the nuances of puppetry. A lot of them think, well, it's a silly puppet, it's a silly voice, it's something fun, enjoyable for kids. That may be true today. Not always so in the past. You have to remember that puppetry was told in places in where actors weren't allowed. So, there were places in Greece and in Rome where acting was completely forbidden. It was punishable by death. But if you brought up a puppet, you could perform. So it's really one of the most enjoyable, oldest professions in all of theater. Now, there are many different styles of puppetry. Quite often, you find somebody that wants to find a silly puppet, create a silly voice, and entertain everybody, or entertain kids specifically. A lot of it is more the puppeteer. In olden days, if a puppeteer wanted to perform serious drama, he could do so, and he could do so with puppets. Additionally, because sometimes it's easier to accept, or because it leaves a more dramatic effect on the mind, they would take a silly puppet and use a serious voice to convey a serious thing. Can you imagine, for example, if Miss Piggy was doing Shakespeare, but not with the voice of Frank Oz, but with the voice of a Shakespearean-trained British actress? You would be wowed by the voice, you'd be amazed by the performance, and you'd laugh inside, and it'd leave a very memorable experience in you because it was done by a pig, and a lovable pig at that. And that's some of the things you need to understand about the various differences in puppetry. I can do all sorts of things with puppets. Yeah, I was trained by Jim Henson. I can do the whole Muppet thing and make everybody laugh. I was in Fraggle Rock. But I can also do other things. That's a camera. It is. Okay. Hi, camera. Hello. I am Vilber, the traveling snail. How are you doing today? Now, we are going to tell you an interesting tale that I found when I was slithering along. Let's see. How did that go? When a traveler in north-central Massachusetts takes the wrong fork at the junction of the Ellsbury Pike just beyond Dean's Corners, he comes upon a lonely and curious country. The ground gets higher and the briar-bordered stone walls press closer and closer against the ruts of the dusty curving road. The trees of the frequent forest belt seem too large, and the wild weeds and brambles and grasses attain a luxuriance not often found in settled regions. At the same time, the planted fields appear singularly few and barren, while the sparsely scattered houses wear a surprisingly uniform aspect of age, squalor, and dilapidation. Without knowing why, one hesitates to ask directions from the gnarled, solitary figures spied now and again on the crumbling doorsteps or on the sloping rock-strewn meadows. Those figures are so silent and furtive that one feels somehow confronted by forbidden things with which it would be better to have nothing to do. When a rise in the road brings the mountains into view above the deep woods, the feeling of strange uneasiness is increased. Summits are too rounded and symmetrical to give a sense of comfort and naturalness, and sometimes the sky silhouettes with especial clearness the queer circles of tall stone pillars with which most of them are crowned. Gorges and ravines of problematical depth intersect the way, and the crude wooden bridges always seem of dubious safety when the road dips again. There are stretches of marshland that one instinctively dislikes, and indeed almost fears, at evening when unseen whippoorwills chatter and the fireflies come out with abnormal profusion. The dance around the crocus creepily incessant rhythms of striping, piping bullfrogs. The thin, shining line of the Miskatonic's upper reaches has an oddly serpent-like suggestion as it winds closer to the feet of the doomed hills among which it arises. As the hills draw nearer, one heeds their wooden sides more than their stone-cropped towns. These sides loom up so darkly and precipitously that one wishes they would keep their distance, but there is no road by which to escape them. Across a covered bridge, one sees a small village huddled between the streams and the vertical slope of a round mountain. The wonder is at the cluster of rotting gambled roofs bespeaking an earlier architectural period than that of the neighboring region. It is not reassuring to see, on a closer glance, that most of the houses are deserted and falling to ruin, and that the broken steepled church now harbors the one slovenly mercantile establishment of the hamlet. One dreads to trust the tenebrous tunnel of the bridge, yet there is no way to avoid it. Once across, it is hard to prevent the impression of a faint malign odor about the village street. As the mass mold and decay of centuries, it is always a relief to get clear of the place, and to follow the narrow road round the base of the hills and across the level country beyond till it rejoins the Aylesbury Pike. Afterward, one sometimes learns that one has been through Dunwich. And that is my tale today, the beginning part of H.P. Lovecraft's The Dunwich Horror. Ooh. So, you see, puppetry can be very fun, very enjoyable, and create many things.